You're tuned to Radio Kidnappers, the voice of Hawke's Bay. This is the program called Real Wealth, hosted by the team from the Studio Group right here in Hastings. It's our pleasure, as always, to have in the studio Trudi from the Studio Group. How you going, Trudi?
I'm going really good.
And you look great, new glasses.
Yeah, thank you. I can see you now.
Yeah, they're fabulous. Now, before we get into today's topic, which is something that we don't necessarily like talking about, it's having a will. Just remind our listeners where the Studio Group is. We want to come to see you for some advice.
We're based at 204 Karamu Road in Hastings, and we're open from 8 till 5, and our telephone number is 878-8961 if you want to come and see us.
Now, your speciality is insurance, but you're more than insurance, aren't you?
Yes, I am more than insurance.
You are much more than insurance.
Thank you, Ken.
That's right.
I mean, I also cover KiwiSaver and venturing into investments as well. So we kind of cover everything at Stewart Group as well.
And in the main, it's free to come see you.
Totally. Free consultation.
Yep, free advice. What more could you want?
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about today. And you said it's the nitty-gritty. Let's get down to it. Wills and about who gets what. What is the process when someone who has life insurance dies? Tell us about that.
Right. Well, a lot of things, there's so many things. So the first thing I'll start off, if somebody has life insurance and they pass away, obviously someone else needs to know that that person has life insurance to make a claim. So you need to make sure there's somebody in your family or a good friend that is aware of the details, and either contact your insurance advisor or get in touch with the insurer directly. So typically our clients contact us and we take them through the whole process. The first thing is you need some sort of notification. A lot of insurers, and a lot of people might not know this, a lot of insurers actually pay like a 10 or 15,000 bereavement fund. So that's something that's released straight away once they've had notification that somebody's died, and it's ahead of processing the whole claim, and obviously that's used for things like funerals, solicitors, that kind of thing. So that's paid out first and foremost, because obviously if somebody has, if I was to die and my policy is owned by me, then who gets the money?
Indeed.
So I would have my funds paid into my estate, and that's where you would need a will to decide who gets what. Obviously you'd be top of the list.
I would be
on that, top of the list.
Have you got my full name?
Full name, Andrew did. So that will stipulate what I want to happen, but that sometimes obviously can take a little while. There's something called probate, and that's where the claim would be paid out by the insurer. Typically they're pretty quick. Once they've got everything they need, they don't muck about. That is then paid out to the estate, and then it has to go through the process of the court verifying that this will, etc., is correct. And then they wait a period of time again to make sure if there are going to be any other claims on this money. So this is where the bereavement fund comes in really handy. So that's one way it can happen. It can also happen that I've got this money paid out, but I have nothing in writing about what's going to happen to it. I've probably not gotten round to it because I think I'm too young.
Yes,
Nothing's going to happen to me. This can happen at any age, never going to die. So what happens? So then there's a process called administration, and that can take a period of time, maybe 6 or 8 weeks. And then it kind of can go through a similar process, but it's not on what I want to happen. It's often next of kin, and it can be paid out to people in a way that might not have been my wishes.
Indeed.
And I think that's something that's really important for people to think about. The whole point of having the life insurance is you've got something in mind to happen, so make sure that it's documented in a will. I mean, they're really easy, quick things to do. Perhaps a lot of people don't like doing them, maybe because they don't like thinking about their own mortality. Do you think, Ken?
I think so. I mean, I dread the thought of passing over. Do you?
Sometimes when I'm having a tired, hard day and I want to rest. But no, you can't imagine not being around your loved ones. But I guess in a really practical sense, it's a little bit like just looking after those people that you care about when you're not here.
What happens, for instance, if we haven't had the foresight to, 1, make a will, but 2, we have taken out life insurance, we're not broadcasting that around the place to anyone that we know or love. How does anyone know we've got that life insurance when we passed on?
Well, sometimes I have had people say to me, like family members who said, well, I could see money they might get bank statements and they could see that money was coming out of the bank account and going to an insurer, so they may contact the insurer, and that can be one way it happens. But yeah, it's a tricky thing. You want to have your affairs in order. I've got a little folder, I'm a bit geeky obviously, which has everything, like, you know, so that my daughter knows, she's my executor, that I've got my will in there, I've got what banks I deal with, probably got my Facebook password, I don't know, just everything that because she might not be aware of everything I have. She doesn't listen to what I say half the time, so if I've got it all written down, that's all she needs, and she can go through that.
Indeed. I would have thought that perhaps insurance companies might have someone who reads the death notice and say, oh, Ken Morrison's died, is he one of our clients?
There may well be something in place, but I don't think you would want to leave it to that. You would want to actually take ownership of it and responsibility, just to make sure that you've got everything tidy your end.
Yeah. So why is it important for a person to have a will? I mean, we know why it's important, but just explain the nuts and bolts of it.
Well,
why is it important?
I guess the nuts and bolts are things about, I mean, the basic is about the beneficiary, so who gets what and how much of it. A lot of people put in there about their funeral, about what they want to happen at their funeral, how they want to be disposed of, you know, cremation, that kind of thing. So it's sort of all their last wishes, along with how all their assets or personal effects are distributed. I mean, I know my grandmother, for many years before she died, has stickers on things with initials, because you'd walk into the house and she'd go, your eyes, and you'd go, oh, that's lovely, and she'd go, do you want, you know, but all that kind of thing. It can ease stress, and I mean, that's really what you're wanting to do, is make things easier for your family when you're not here. It's all kind of organised already.
Now, we often talk, you and I, about the need to update your insurances, probably on a yearly basis, at least every second year. What about your will, though? I mean, most of us would write a will, and we wouldn't think about it again.
Well, I mean, I guess the thing is, a will that you might write at age 30 or 40, you may have an executor in there, so that's somebody who's going to administer your wishes or process and carry it out. Well, they might not be around anymore, they might not live in the same area. Your will could also cover guardianship for your children. That could change. I mean, obviously, as you get older, so do your children, but, you know, there are all those sorts of things. So whilst you might not need to go and have a new will written, I would really recommend you keeping a copy and reviewing it periodically to make sure that it's all still relevant.
Can you review it yourself? I know you're not a lawyer, but can you review it yourself?
Well, you can certainly look at it and go, oh, I don't know, we've had that executor is my such whatever relation, and we're not talking anymore. I don't think it's appropriate that they get to deal with all my money and distributing it, or they've moved away. So just even something simple like that.
Yeah. And I suppose if you want to scratch someone out of your will, then you need... Or, you know, couples split up. Yeah, of course.
I mean, that's one of the first things I look at with... often we have couples come to us and say, well, look, we've split up and we want to split our insurance, the ownership, etc. will change. And I always ask them if they've updated their will, because that's something people often forget. And who's going to get everything if there's a new person on the scene?
Yes, because if you're not married and you're living with someone and you part and you've still got them in your will, they become your beneficiary, don't they?
Well, if you want to be really clear, I mean, we have come across problems with people where they haven't perhaps changed the ownership either on their insurance policy, because that's one way of dealing with say a life insurance payout, or they go straight to their estate and their will doesn't reflect what they actually want to happen because they've remarried, etc.
I suppose life insurance is one of those insurances where they pretty well pay out, not quite on the day, but they're certainly probably not investigating and saying, oh, that looks a bit dodgy. I mean, he's died, but a bit like an insurance that you might rip off.
Well, it's certainly more cut and dry.
Yes, isn't it?
I guess you either are dead or you're not. They will investigate certain circumstances, perhaps if some suggestion of self-harm is involved, because there is an exclusion.
Yes, that's right.
For a period of time for that. But yes, it's not like are you or aren't you able to work, perhaps for an income protection. It is black and white. It's more just sometimes the circumstances surrounding that.
And you generally find that insurance companies are very quick to pay it. I mean, just say that you're relying on your husband's money to pay the mortgages and all that sort of stuff. All of a sudden, no job. Oops, where's that money coming from?
Yeah, they are. Once they've got everything they need, it's quick. And I mean, we're talking about, it can be a lot of money. I mean, I don't know how many people in their life have had sort of 200, 500, $1 million all of a sudden show up. And I guess then that's the next thing, is how do you manage that? Because, I mean, as I've said before, my mother always says if my father dies, she'd go on a cruise. That's her way of dealing with the grief. But it's that feeling of you've got this huge amount of money, you want to make sure you use it in an appropriate manner to pay off things like mortgages and debt, and maybe to put some money aside for your children's education, that kind of thing, because it doesn't just happen when people are older. A lot of the times that these things like life insurance are really needed are when you've got a mortgage and debt and young children.
Yes. What about KiwiSaver? Does that become automatically part of the big pot, because KiwiSaver is in my name separately, isn't it?
And that's why, even with life insurance, if you had your wife as the beneficiary of your policy, it can't cover KiwiSaver. So your KiwiSaver would be paid into your estate, and that's where you need a will to just sort of explain what you want to happen with it. And I think that's something that, KiwiSaver is still relatively new in people's minds. And perhaps before that, people would think, oh, well, I've got my ownership correct on my policy, so I'm all sorted. But with KiwiSaver, and people have some, I mean, we see it at work, they have some really hefty balances in there. You'd want to say and where that was going.
I wonder, I suppose it's in every will, but we have a clause in our will that whatever money we've got in the bank goes to the surviving partner. So that's not the same with KiwiSaver, is it not? Because it's just like having money in the bank, isn't it?
Well, KiwiSaver would just be paid into your estate.
Not the bank, though.
No, it would be paid into your estate, and that would be something maybe to check with your solicitor as to the wording that you actually have in your will. And again, it's just a new thing for us all to kind of think about. And is KiwiSaver generally paid out in the same urgency as a life insurance policy? My understanding is, it is. It is, it's just a lump sum like it is with a life insurance, and you just need to go through their claim process, satisfy their criteria, and then it's paid out.
So just to recap before we let you get back to work, just give us the highlights of what we've just been talking about.
Well, I guess the highlights are 1,500 Kiwis die every year without a will. So that's a lot of mess to leave family members in. It doesn't take long to do. If you get a solicitor, I know there are DIY kits, I've never done them myself, but there's a lot of different ways that you have access to wills, and I would really encourage people to do that. I would always also encourage people to check the ownership of their policies and make sure that they reflect what they want and what's the quickest and easiest for their family, and they can just do that by talking to their advisor. And if we want you to be our advisor, just remind our listeners where we come to see you. Come and see me at 204 Karamu Road in Hastings, or give me a call on 06 878 8961. Good on you, Trudi. As was our pleasure. You look after yourself. We'll talk to the same time, same place next time. Thank you, Ken.